with all kinds of different rebates, with nothing matched anything, and everybody was crazy. And the housing stock was crazy with no insulation, and you know how cold it is up there and everything. So Blair Hamilton, who started, just said, this has to go. Columbus, Ohio has something very similar, about 15 different power companies. So they called VEIC to come in to set up this sustainable energy utility where they will all cooperate, and they're going to hire an administrator to run it. They've also recently been called in to Tennessee Valley Authority, which is like Bonneville Power, to come in and give them some help in setting up a very similar program. So these things do work. Delaware has one, Oregon has one, and now they're fanning out. And when the District of Columbia wrote their proposal to do this, they had been going back and forth for about 5 years looking at what Vermont was doing. And then they sort of patterned themselves after that. Again, we're going to drive the workforce. We're going to push it hard. We're hiring district residents. Like I said, we figured out a way to hire the felons. They've been trained. We're going to train the BPI people so when they go into a house, how to sell. You're a contractor. We're going to train you how to sell your job, and we're going to give you money. We're not going to give the money to the homeowner. The money is going to the contractors. We're going to help them buy it down because our job is to also get people back to work and get the companies back to work. We're going to make it very easy for everybody to participate. I'm hard building collaborative relationships. We're going to collaborate with everybody. We're going to try to be smart about the money. We're going to leverage the money. We have to go and get money. We're going to get money from the federal government, foundations, because we're going to have to leverage what we have. Even though it seems like $20 million, it's not a lot of money for what we need to do and what needs to be done. So here are the contacts, and I'm going to send my paper to iRenew, and it'll be up on the website, so you can just go right up there and get it. And then these are the people to contact. We have a website. And thank you. This is overall what we have to do. 33 green jobs, 1% per year, quick starts, build the buzz, and see where we go. Questions? Anybody? No questions? It's good or bad? No questions about home performance by Energy Star or Building Performance Institute? None of that? You all know all of that.
How does the minimum wage fit into all this?
We are assuming, if you are a certified contractor in the District of Columbia, and that's a good question, very good question, that you are adhering to, you have to pay a living wage. That's required, and that will be in our contracts, that you must pay a living wage, and we're also expecting that you're going to pay benefits and the whole bit. The unions have given us sort of a hard time. LAUNA, which is one of the large labor unions around, they went to the mayor and they sort of turned this thing around. A goal is 33 FTEs the first year. And they said, you're going to give them $7.5 million, and they're only going to generate 33 jobs. You give us the $7.5 million, and we can put 300 people to work. How much? But I mean, of course, they just screwed it up, but everybody says we're used to dealing with the unions and we can work with them. And one of the things that I've been trying to do with the unions is to say, you know, if we can set aside a certain amount of work for small and minority businesses, and that's legal, there really isn't any reason why we can't set aside a certain amount of work for the unions. But remember, the unions are not the implementing contractors, and this is not what they want you to remember. They have workers that sit in the labor hall, in the union hall. So if you're a contractor, what they're really saying is they want to make it possible that you have to go to the labor hall to get your workers. And we can't do that because that money comes from everybody. But they are paying a living wage, they are paying benefits, but we would expect that that contractor is also doing the same thing. I'm a small business. I have employees. I pay a living wage. I have engineers, so you know I pay a living wage. And I pay benefits, 401k, and the whole bit. So we would expect that the contractors are doing the very same thing. You have a question? You keep looking at me.
Well, I just, I feel ashamed because I was running around doing administration stuff instead of getting in here at the beginning of your speech. So, but from what I saw of it, it reminded me quite a bit of the stuff that Van Jones has done in Oakland, where he's bringing together different groups to do solar.
Right, but Van Jones is not doing anywhere near what this entity is going to do. Van Jones has a powerful voice. He speaks with a voice, but he's a one person. This is a city program that has $7.5 million and will go up to $20 million. This is a much more powerful, much more organized program. But we know what Van is doing, and some of the businesses that have formed because of Van will be some of the contractors that we hope will bid on these projects we put on the street.
Could you go a little bit more into, you talked about where you have a patchwork of, it sounds like incentive programs or a lot of different power providers with a whole bunch of
Okay,
different...
we have a certain amount of money. Let's just say that, okay, when I talked about low-income multifamily, we're paying for all of that. So you have to have your tools, but we're going to provide the money for the light bulbs and the aerators and all of that, and we haven't quite decided if we're going to reimburse you or if we're going to have a warehouse where you go and get it. We haven't quite decided, and that's what we have to hear from the contractors as to how they would like to have that done. But for this first year, low-income multifamily, direct install commercial, we're paying for all of that. Now, Energy Star, home performance by Energy Star, that's a little different. We will work with you, the contractor. You want to come in and do my audit, and then you want to do my retrofits. And you work up that the windows and insulation and everything are going to cost me $15,000. Well, unfortunately, the middle class are the worst people to talk to about doing anything because we don't have the money. Okay? So, low income, great. You're getting that for free. This is us. We are the headache. So if you come back and say, well, you know, Lilia, if I could bring this job in for, instead of $15,000, if I could bring it in for $7,500, $8,000, would you then let me do it? Yeah, I'll do that. And that's because you've sat with the SEU. We're divided into basically about 4 technical sides. There's a group that does nothing but residential. And then they're divided into low income, and they are divided into just regular. A group that does nothing but commercial. And these people are energy managers, architects and all, and they know how to, so they've sat with you, they've gone through your audit, you work back and forth, and they said, okay, we can buy down 40% of this job for you. And then we give you the money, and then you go and do the job, and then you have to come back and prove it because we have to also do IB&B. So even after you go and do the work, we've got to send somebody in to make sure that the work was done and that we're getting the savings we thought we would get. So we're going to be working with the contractors to help buy down the cost of the money. And even with some of the East Coast, you know, like Johnson Controls and Honeywell and this kind of stuff, we're trying to come up with a program where smaller people 15, 20 people outfit can also do, we're calling them mini ESCOs, where they can come in and do a same kind of program that a Honeywell would do, but for a smaller facility, not a hospital, but something smaller. And we're going to even put incentives together to get smaller ESCOs who will go in and take the risk and say, all right, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to get paid out of the savings. And let me just mention something. You know, Energy Star tells you all of this stuff about, well, you can get savings if you go to this energy efficient product and this kind of stuff. Well, in the District of Columbia, the Public Service Commission has given the regulated utilities, and they can recover so much on their assets in the ground. And they should. I mean, you know, they should get a profit on their assets in the ground. So, if you're doing a whole lot of energy efficiency work and they see that their profit is going down, they can raise their rates. And they do it. And it doesn't have to be every 6 months, every year. They can do it monthly. You know, and then they come in and they report, and if they raise it too high, then they have to give a certain amount of the money back, but they have the ability to raise their rate. So this so-called thing of savings, basically what you're doing is that you're lowering the rate at which your rate increases. But you may not necessarily see a decrease. But we'll be working with ESCOs to overcome that as well. Same with smart grid. People talk about smart grid, how great it is. Well, from our perspective, it takes jobs. And we have smart grid program going on in the District of Columbia right now. So we got all these meter readers that are eventually going to get put out on the street, and then they're going to be coming over to the SEU. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to absorb this. So in some cases, it's, you know, it sounds good, but in other cases, when you're trying to keep people working, it's a two-headed sword.
You talked earlier about how a lot of funding for this program comes from a fund that the ratepayers and the utilities pay into. Do you know if that's something that's widespread, like would we have a similar program here in Iowa? Or
I know they have one in
Right.
one in California, because I've had a couple of consulting engineering firms who are very much interested in this concept call and talk about it, because that kind of an entity, financial instrument, exists in California. I don't know about other places. Delaware set up an SEU a couple of years ago. Well, the savings didn't materialize. I mean, people just ought to cut that out. It's not as great as it sounds. And most of us in here, we're technical people, so we understand that. So, and then they did not have any other place to get any money because there weren't any savings. So then they went and got ARA money. And back to your question, then they decided, well, maybe we just ought to get us our money back, because then they had to meet minimum wage and Davis Bacon. So then that's what they thought was going to go away. So I don't know about other people, but I know they do have something like that in California. We do have it in the district. Okay. Now what they did in Vermont, that money, and they operate millions in their energy efficiency program, and it comes straight from the state. Straight from the state. Not going to happen here. I mean, it took a little hard sell in the district to get them. I mean, we had the trust fund, but they wanted to use that money another way. But it took a little sell, but we had a couple of council people on the city council who just kept at it and made it a reality.
And it's engaged us and partners. Is that what the contractors or private individuals?
As everybody.
What kind of stuff are you hearing?
They're happy about it. You know, I heard somebody stand up the other day and said, with Pepco, the rates are going to go up, and somebody stood up and said, oh, no, it's not going to happen. We have the SEU now, so you can raise your rates. You know, we're going to use such little power anyway, it doesn't matter. So, I mean, so far, so good. We're new. We're new kids on the block.